All righty. 45-7 is the final. Michigan, and probably, Sam, I'd say the most dominant from start to finish performance of the season, gets it done here on the road at Nebraska. Any little issues that you had maybe coming into this game, Sam, I'd have to say Michigan came out and answered them and really just handled their business. A very efficient performance from the offense, the defense. JJ McCarthy with some 3 touchdowns. You had Roman Wilson. I feel like all he does is catch touchdowns. You had the tip pass for McGregor, Grant with the interception that set the tone on defense on their first drive against the Cornhusker offense. Really just a little bit of everything from start to finish, Sam.
Yeah, man, I think it was one of those deals where the performance that people were looking for out the gate, it finally came today. Everything came together for the Maize and Blue. You had JJ playing like we saw him play the first 2 weeks of the season, Josh.
Yeah.
I think, and I wrote this immediately after the game. I think the reaction to JJ's performance in the Bowling Green game was a little exaggerated by people. It was a little embellished, unwarranted. Criticism was warranted, but concern was not. And he showed you today. I mean, he said, remember, he came up and he said after the game, "This is gonna make me a monster," right? And I think what he was getting at was to not be a slave to the moment. I think that first interception kind of threw him off a little
Yeah.
bit and made him play uncharacteristic JJ McCarthy football. But it was an anomaly because that's not him. Man, he came out today and he was dealing. He was absolutely dealing. I thought the game plan was really, really strong. So they came out throwing the football. They showed him right away that, look, we aren't going to be deterred by the wind. And then the very first run play was a counter read. Now, you might recall in the TCU game, Michigan started out, there's a 3-3-5 team, just like this was a 3-3-5 team. Just like ECU and UNLV were 3-3-5 teams. When they first saw the game a little issue, they tried to punch it in the mouth. They ran that ISO in early in the game, and it hit, and then they didn't hit anything else inside after that. They started getting to the edges, and they started getting to the edges with the counter read especially. That was the first run play today. Got JJ on the edge, established him as a run threat. Then they started busting them up the middle, right, and showing that they could do that too. And I think that has everything to do with the familiarity of seeing this scheme so much now in the last 5 games. 3 of the last 5 opponents run it, so they were extremely comfortable. And then JJ talk about comfort with Roman Wilson, Josh. That ball, so that's a ball player being a ball player, and JJ, buying some time after he had some time in the pocket, finding this man down the field, giving this guy a chance to make a play. And that's what Roman Wilson did on that play. It was the biggest pass catch or touchdown reception of his career and one of the best of the season so far.
Yeah, I had a little reminisce of David Tyree got the football against the helmet, catching it. Very impressive play there by Roman. He's been impressive for these Wolverines this season. Just sort of, that classic senior just stepping it up and you're really taking control, owning that number 1 jersey. Really, nine touchdowns on the season, and looks like a guy that is going to be in the Biletnikoff talk, at least now. I mean, they're going to start coming out with those lists right now, Sam. He's going to be on that semifinal list. I'd imagine he will be there, but he keeps up this type of play. He's definitely in that conversation for an all Big Ten receiver. Obviously, there's some good ones in this conference, right? We're not trying to take that away from everybody. There's a pretty good one few good ones down there in Columbus. But Roman Wilson's playing like a baller. He's playing like a senior leader, and that's exactly what this Michigan offense needs. I think you also got to
go ahead.
No, I think I'd like to, we can talk about the passing game and JJ being 12 of 16, efficient. Again, I know you always hit on this with Devin Gardner. He's the best play action quarterback in the country. Does it time and time again. You give him a little bit of time. If he gets that defense to bite on the play action, he's going to pick you apart.
Yeah, we talk about how accurate a passer he is. I mean, he has a howitzer, I think Devin said, and he said he could throw the ball through a car wash and then not get wet. And when you are throwing into the wind like he had to for a good portion of his time out there today, you got to have an arm to do it. And he has that, but his accuracy, man. Like at one point, Brock Hewitt talked about during the broadcast. He said, man, look at JJ throw this. He said he throw this over on the dagger. Dagger is a dig with a post behind it. The post is an alert. It's basically essentially a clear out route. We've seen JJ hit that play. We've talked about it on this broadcast going back to last season, how JJ is an assassin on that concept, hitting that dig against man and zone. And there
Right.
was a time in Michigan's recent history where that ball was not thrown against zone. And JJ knifes, and he'll even hit the alert. He's hit the alert a couple times on that route. So you look, he does not leave plays on the football field. And I think it's one of the things that takes this offense to another level when he's feeling that like he's feeling it, when he's a run threat too. You got to give Sharon more credit, using it judiciously and strategically. You know, putting a read on a duo last week, I thought was brilliant. It was brilliant because team was running this duo buster defense and really knocking it out, and they can't do it anymore. They got to play it more honestly, and getting JJ, just using him in any capacity as a runner, makes teams play them more honestly. And oh, when you go man to man on him and he gets in the clear, it's a touchdown like it was today.
Yeah, I'd like to say like two things, and you mentioned one. I want to talk about more second, but the fact that JJ, you talk about his throws, his howitzer, he's able to just throw a rocket throw right in a. He was throwing, making completions today in these tight windows, and it's somewhat an advantage point that we really don't get to see until we go back and watch the tape. Right when we're in the press box for a home game, we don't get to see that. So to see that type of like we get that instant feedback, so to speak, when we're watching it just off the television. You just it's a marvel to see him do it live, and this is what he's the growth, the maturity in his development these past few years. Just to see him make these tight window throws, those are next level throws, and it's something that Michigan has, and it's a weapon. And also, on what you mentioned about Sharon Moore, you have to just tip your hat to his play calling today. I thought Michigan really just had Nebraska's number. Everything they dialed up, it worked. I mean, whether it was even a 3-yard play, they had Nebraska's number. Nebraska had no answers, and it was a very methodical, business-like approach from this offensive staff led by Moore and his play calling. And it was just you got, like I said, tip your hat to what you saw on the field today.
Yeah, man, I think, and we're going to be joined by Zach Shaw and Alejandro Zuniga live from Lincoln here coming up. And listen, I think Sharon, the way he started out the game, the two, like every team who starts out against Michigan, they're going to play run first, and they're going to play run up the middle first. And so for the first two plays to be a pass and a perimeter run, I think that those two plays right there set a great tone. And the whole drive set a great tone. They even brought out an RPO, first RPO of the season, I would say, right? And there's always a new wrinkle. So it was an RPO, and he wound up hitting Donovan. They tried to do a couple things with Donovan. They ran a little Texas route. He dropped it, but you can see them trying to involve him in the pass game more. And then this run game, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't highlight Ladarius Henderson on the left side, Carson Barnhart on the right side. This is the best the offensive line has looked all season long. I know there was a breakdown. JJ got hit a couple times, and not excusing that. But certainly from physicality and in the run game, they haven't looked better than this. I mean, I'm not saying that the competition is over, but to me, it's very telling the way they were plowing this team. And you say, oh, it was just Nebraska. Nebraska was the #1 run defense in the country
Exactly.
coming into this game. Now, they hadn't played anybody, but neither had the prior 4 teams. And Michigan wasn't punching them around like they punched this team around. I think that says something about this offensive line composition that we saw out there today. And like I said, I can't say the competition is over, but it was very telling to me how good they look with that composition out there.
Yeah, just see that they look like a motivated unit. I think you saw like, and I was talking this just from friends, just during the game and everything. You see the first 4 games, really like everyone was approaching it like that was the preseason, right? Just get through it, work on some things. But now that they've made it through that, they just showed up and played. And it's the first time you've seen them sort of put that start to finish performance. And I think it was over 200 plus rushing yards. I think it was like 230 or something like that. So very impressive performance by that offensive unit.
Yeah, they're trying to jam Zach Shaw's signal down there on the field. He's about to start talking about how Nebraska got beat down while his signal clears up. Let's go ahead and go over to the defense, Josh, because this was a team that had been running the football really well. Michigan started out the game last week against Rutgers, and they weren't as sound as we'd seen them be against the run. They eventually got it together, but the first quarter was a little spotty for them.
Yeah, but it was enough to just they held serve and they made Nebraska make a play and
I'm
Nebraska
talking about
kept
last
making
week.
play.
I'm
Oh,
talking about
last week.
last. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean last week
they were great from the start this week.
well last week they gave up the big play, right? They gave up the big play for a touchdown, and really just clamped down after that. I think you sort of saw similar this game. They got the interception off the first off Nebraska's first possession, but Nebraska came knocking. They I think it really set the tone for this defense. They got the interception, then Nebraska went for it on 4th and 1. Right? They could have taken some points, got on the board, and then Michigan stuffed them. It was a great 4th down stop.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And so I thought, to me, how sound they were in their assignments up front, especially the edge guys. Remember, there were a couple times last week where Josiah Stewart, I mean, he got out his gap. He lost contained and let the guy get around. One play was called back for a holding call. The other play, the guy got around him. He was peeking inside. That didn't happen. I thought it was a great game of responsibility football by the entire front, but especially those guys on the edges. And now we got our crew live from Lincoln, Nebraska, and so it looks like our guy Zach Shaw has his signal as well as we bring him on. So
Hope so.
let's start. Zach, since you came on first, let's start with you, man, and just your reaction to the game.
Yeah, I was reminded of those viral videos we see of like the flag football players who like clearly have gone through puberty when the rest of the team hasn't. Like that's kind of what I thought. Like Michigan just looked like they were playing on a different level. It was a different class of football, and it was really obvious from the first drive, the second drive, the third drive. I mean, it was really just beat down, and it's just crazy to think. I've been covering these road games for a long time. There used to be kind of a boogeyman complex in Newkirk. This, I mean, how many times do we go to these road games? We're like, how are they going to react to the crowd? How are they going to provide their energy when the crowd wants to see them fail? How are they going to when things go? Nothing went wrong. Like what we used to think of, like when Alabama comes to roll and like steamrolls a Mississippi State or some of these other road teams that they face. I mean, Michigan made it look extremely easy. They made it look effortless. And I think you guys were talking about it a moment ago, just a very complete game. Great offensive line, great run game. The passing game didn't have to do a ton, but every time it tried to do something, it did. And then the defense just continues to look, in my opinion, like the best in the country. No one's running on them unless the game's out of hand in the fourth quarter. And, pass defense, maybe some stuff to clean up, but, 4 sacks and interception. I mean, it was just a complete beatdown. And it kind of – Michigan made a conference opponent with 80,000 fans look like, a MAC team or a group of 5 programs they were beating up.
Alejandro, your reaction to the game?
Oh, man, it was hot out here. No, it was to echo Zach's point. I mean, this was the sort of game where within 10 minutes, right, the crowd was quiet. And, we spent all week watching videos of the 2021 game, right, watching Thunderstruck between the third and fourth quarters. And I was super excited for that coming in because I thought, it's probably not going to be a blowout. It'll be close by the end of it. The crowd will be into it. That crowd was quiet, Sam. I mean, 2 quick touchdowns. I think the loudest cheer after the opening kickoff was when a student came down and made a field goal and won a gift card. It was just that sort of dominating performance that you think about how far this program's come in 2 years, right? 2 years ago, yeah, like to Zach's point, you come into a Nebraska game and you don't know how the Michigan football team's going to react. And I think this year it was workmanlike in every aspect, right? It was over by halftime. Players were having fun. It looked like Lambeau with Lions fans by the end of it, with the number of Michigan fans that were left over, and you just look up and down that box score. You can't shut down one person on this Michigan football team because there's just so much talent up and down, offensive and defensive side of the ball. And they proved it today.
The trigger
Alejandro,
man, go ahead, Josh.
Alejandro, I got to ask. It looked like just on the television that the stands were clearing out at halftime. I don't think they just all went to get hot dogs. It
was. Okay, to be fair to anyone who showed up, it was 95 degrees at the end of September. It was bright sunshine for a large portions of the stadium. I mean, but it's true. I mean, by halftime, by the third quarter, there were smatterings of boos. It was very clear that those who stayed for the end was really just, hey, either we're family, players, or we really want to make sure that Nebraska doesn't get shut out for the first time in 3 decades. Because the game was over very quickly. It was to the point where I think it was Sharon Moore. I have a video of him as he was walking off, and he's kind of pumping up the Michigan fans who were there and waving goodbye to the Nebraska fans who were leaving. And that was at halftime. It was over, and everyone knew it.
I got to follow up. Some creativity from the Michigan offense today for touchdown celebrations, mocking Nebraska by pretending to eat some corn on the cob. Was anything mentioned about that post game? It seems like they sort of and what any news notes, reactions from what the boys had to say about this win. That it seemed like it was a very business-like approach, but they had some fun with it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. No comments about the corn celebration, but of course we saw that a couple of years ago with Blake Corum when he scored here at Memorial Stadium. He did a similar celebration, so it seemed like they were all breaking it out. What Jim Harbaugh said is, these guys are confident, but they're not arrogant, and when you're winning by 28 points at halftime, like it was, you can celebrate, right? So not a whole lot really post game comment wise, just because it was such a thorough beatdown. What Jim Harbaugh said is, this is the Michigan football team that I see in practice every day, and it's taken a few weeks, right, for us to see the offense click the way it clicked today, the defense also clicked the way, the special teams, like everything. Like the Michigan had no penalties, right? Like it was the sort of performance that it's a reminder of what Michigan can be. And we knew it coming into the season, right? Because of how much talent they returned from last year, but we haven't fully seen it, I think, until today.
Yeah, complete game. And you're right. First complete game of the season. You saw the difference in talent, the difference in just how well coached they are to have no penalties. But the biggest difference, and this is what I want to seize upon. This is what makes them a championship team. I just think that J.J. McCarthy, they are going to go as far as he takes them. And it just feels like he's capable of taking them farther this year. I know Nebraska is not necessarily the opponent that you truly judge that by, but just watching the different components of his game, the ability to improvise, the ability to run, right? The ability to take the crowd out of the game, the ability to not be affected by the wind. He had one wrinkle this season where you could look at it, and it seemed like some of the national pundits were kind of throwing some doubt at Michigan based on Bowling Green. But if you look at that within the context of his career, Zach, like that's the anomaly in his career. He does not turn the football over. He does not get rattled. So what we've seen in 4 of the 5 games this year, if he plays like that, especially if he plays like the first 2 games in today, I just don't think that there's a team that is more complete than Michigan in the country when JJ plays like that.
Hard. Is a lot of these top programs, have new quarterbacks, or they don't necessarily have the capital G quarterback. It was a long quarterback, not just with his talent level, but also his demeanor, his leadership, activity. Even in the press conference, he's still good.
They're killing you. They're killing you, Zach. They're killing you with the signal, man.
Zach, your audio's struggling hard.
They're killing you with the signal, man. They got to see if they can let you get on their Wi-Fi real quick.
I'll take from what Zach was saying though, like in his post-game press conference. JJ talked all week, right, about how he gets that extra itch playing on the road, how he gets a little bit more juice. And, in terms of post-game comments, he said he was very excited to look over at the dog, it's not called dogs, the boneyard, I think is what it's called, the student section, and see how empty it was by halftime, that he really relished in that. And then, to Zach's point about someone who's engaged, like Jim Harbaugh has talked many times about how he wishes anyone on the Michigan football team would follow J.J. McCarthy into battle, would follow him to hell and back. And you see it on the sidelines, right? I mean, everyone, by the fourth quarter, the starters were sitting. J.J. McCarthy, Michigan was on its fourth quarterback at that point. And who's the first guy on the field when Michigan scores a garbage time touchdown? It's J.J. McCarthy with probably his biggest smile that he's had all day, dapping up Peyton O'Leary and, Jaden Denegal and everyone else who was on the field at that point. That's the teammate you want, right? And obviously he's the player to back up, the teammate that he is as well.
Right. When your defense plays like that, I mean, you go down, you score a touchdown, then you get the ball right back. Did you have a good vantage point on the Kenneth Grant play?
I saw it. It is very hard to miss Kenneth Grant, right? There are two players on the field who I do not need to see a number for. It is Cam Good and it is Kenneth Grant. You just know who they are just based on the mass. So I had a pretty good view. Awesome celebration. Those are the sort of plays that obviously Michigan's gotten them throughout the season, but it's they came in with a focus of knowing that Nebraska had the top-ranked rush defense in the Big Ten, the top-ranked rush offense in the Big Ten. What did Blake Corum talk about last week is that they want to come in and they want to establish themselves as the bullies. They want to prove that they're the guys who, even if the stats didn't say it coming in, that they were the best at it. And they proved it. Like every single person on that defensive line was making plays. Offensive line, by the end of the game, it was every carry was going for 7, 8, 9, 10 yards. That's Michigan football right there.
Yeah, we see wrinkles every week. I talked about it earlier in the show. They put a read on a duo last week. This week they busted out a counter read. What we saw be really successful against TCU. They added a naked slide this week. They got all the pro concepts in the pass game too. I mean, I think that we get caught up in it not being this wide open attack and Michigan's penchant. Like they are going, because of who they are and their DNA, they are going to run into loaded boxes, period. They're never going to be as reactive to loaded boxes as maybe the general fan base wants them to be, right? Hey, some teams, they RPO that every time. That's never going to be Michigan. They ran one RPO today. I mean, it was like, and that's like the first RPO of the season, right? Now, it's in the playbook. Maybe you bring it out a little bit more against teams down the line, but they want to be able to run the ball against teams that do that to them too. And they've worked on ways to do that. And I thought today was the biggest test to date. All right, how do you handle that? How do you handle what teams try to do to you in the run game? Can you still run on it? And they ran on it inside and out. They may have started outside, started with a pass, started getting on the edge. That was enough to throw this defense off kilter. And they were on skis the rest of the day, getting pushed around. So then when you add the quarterback dialing it up like that, Josh, I mean, you remember he said, mentioned this earlier in the show, you got to know the kid. He took it on the chin after the Bowling Green game, all the criticism. But you can kind of see him take it in stride. He's like, man, I'm going to be a monster after this. I'm going to be a monster after you watch. And then you look at his stats, and nationally, they won't see monster because he was 12 for 16 for like 160-something yards, whatever it was. Then he ran another 2 times for 30 yards. It will not be as gaudy yardage-wise as some of those other teams, but his efficiency is off the freaking charts. Find me a more efficient quarterback than J.J. McCarthy. I don't think you can, because he's playing at a level the likes of which we hadn't seen a Michigan quarterback play in a long, long time.
Yeah, he's not just completing passes that are just, little swing passes out in the flat. He's throwing down the field. He's finding his targets. The flea flicker, for one, was one where he just was able to just find a small little section to complete the pass. He's completing at a high rate, and he's completing passes that normal quarterbacks can't complete. Slowly, we're seeing this guy matriculate into the total package, and it's just they're gonna need him. I mean, they're gonna need him in those big games in November, and they got 4 more games to develop and get better. And that's sort of what I think I'm sort of looking at as this team matures throughout the season in this next month. as they get through the part of their Big Ten schedule, because this guy's been special. He needs to stay special for this team to win a national championship, and we already know that's the goal for this team.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, any parting shots, Alejandro? I know you got a lot of post game to get through, but any parting shots as you wrap things up from Lincoln, Nebraska?
Yeah, just like a service academy almost, right? It's like when you're playing Army, when you're playing those triple option offenses, it feels like you can't fall behind on them, right? Because once that happens, the game's over. And that's kind of what I like. That's the feeling I get with Michigan sometimes, right? It's the Michigan. They shorten games. There aren't often that many possessions. They play so safe with the ball. They don't commit many mistakes. Outside of that Bowling Green game, it's not a team that turns the ball over a lot. It's a team that you can't fall behind, because if that happens, they can, it's like an anaconda. They can just suck the life out of you, and that's the game. And that's what it felt like today, right? It's like once it was 14-0, the game was over, and that's everyone in the stadium knew it. And the reason for that is because Michigan has the offensive line to run the ball. Will run the ball into stacked boxes. They will pick up first downs against stacked boxes. They've got Kalel Mullings, all 200 bowling ball, pounds of him, who can pound the ball. And then as soon as you start selling out against that, you've got JJ McCarthy, right? Who's not going to make many mistakes, who beat you, make a throw on the field. Like formula that stats are like no individual, maybe outside of Roman Wilson, has had those eye-popping stats at this point this year. But you see the games play out, and it's boring almost. It's repetitive in a lot of ways, but it works, and it's worked for 2 years in a row, and it worked here today in Lincoln.
Yeah, man. Alejandro, thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate your time. Finish up there in Lincoln and fly back safe, my man.
All right, appreciate it.
All right, Joe, take it easy, bud.
Alejandro Zuniga live from Lincoln, as the TMI crew is the best in the land when it comes to analysis and breaking down this team. I'm anxious to talk to our breakdown and analysis crew of Vance Bedford, of Al Borges, of Devin Gardner. I can predict what they're going to talk about. Devin, he only does quarterbacks. We know that, right? He only does quarterbacks. But how much you want to bet his first play is going to be the play where JJ is running out of bounds, or he's running towards out of bounds, and he sees his man over to the side, and so he throws to an open area. So this is the difference, I think, between the two plays. Devin is going to call it a distinction without a difference, because the point, and I agreed with this point, is you can't take the stinger out of the B, right? Stay aggressive. That was the main thing, Josh, coming out of that Bowling Green game. You want him to be more responsible, but you don't want him to be cautious, right? Just be responsible with the football. Don't be cautious. And Jim, that was his, he was going to be back the next week. That was his first message. Like, I don't want to tell this dude to be careful, right? I don't want him to not be aggressive. I want him to stay aggressive. Yep. And that was an aggressive play, and the sign that JJ got the memo. He still went out there and made a ball player play, but that was a responsible play because he wasn't throwing into a crowded area. He threw to an open spot, and his man, he was playing the scramble drill with him, and they came out on top.
Yeah, that was the gunslinger, right? That's the guy that we saw when he was just a young pup in high school making those type of plays. Maybe a little more risque at the time because he was just young, but he makes those plays, and that's what makes him special. And that's what's going to make him be special at Michigan and beyond Michigan, is being that type of ball player. And that's why when you see him play from day one to that's got to be JJ. He's got to be smart, but but he can also make plays that other people can't. And that's just a fact. I'm not, we're not making that up.
And here's the other thing, and it may not show up in a game like this, but I'm telling you, it's there, and it's why, watching him in the press conference after the Bowling Green game, like he took it on the chin. He wasn't worried. He felt like he let his team down a little bit, even though they won. You could tell he was taking ownership. But hey, the guys look to me to be the guy that makes everything right, right? And he made some plays in that game. But the point is, you need that guy on your team that no matter the circumstance, you could look at him and be like, okay, we got that guy.
Yeah,
we got that guy. No matter, it could be in Columbus, We could be down by 2 touchdowns twice in the playoff game. We got that dude, so we got a chance. He's that guy, right? And so I think that's why he took it hard, because from the moment he got in the press conference, he's like, man, this ain't gonna happen. I'm gonna be all right.
Well,
He felt like it was one of those games where, the team was looking at him like, okay, we got to pick him up. He never wants to be the guy that the team picks up. He always wants to be the guy that picks up the team.
yeah,
And I think he is the guy that's always going to pick up the team. That's why he's going to go as far as they take him. And Josh, I think he's going to take them all the way.
Well, the last time I saw that dejected of a look on JJ's face was after the TCU loss last year, right? Remember, he said, we are not going to go through this again. He gave his quick spiel, and they're coming back for bigger and better things.
Man.
He had a look like, hey, we just lost this game, because he holds himself to such high standards, and he knows in order for them to achieve the goals that they want, he can't play like that. So that's why he said what he said to you when we walked out of that press conference. Hey, this ain't gonna happen again. Period. And then so you're seeing a guy that's holding himself accountable. He could get away with what he got away with, because that was Bowling Green, right? We got to call it a spade a spade. That was Bowling Green. He got away with it. He learned from it, and we're seeing the guy that's coming out here and playing like the JJ we know.
Yeah, and speaking of which, let's not end this without giving a little shout out to Khalil Mullins, because we've been talking about JJ coming back from the 2 pick sixes, right, in the TCU game. Like that wasn't going to define him. He was going to come back. Hey man, it was just as costly a game for Khalil Mullins in that game. He goes the wrong way on the Philly special, right? Yeah. So that blows that play up, and then he has the fumble going in. And so a lot of guys fold up in a situation like that. They never come back and become a player. And this dude, I mean, he's running with more vision. He seems quicker. He's running through tacklers. I mean, he's looking like a running back now, right? Like a real running back. And a guy that if he gets in the clear, and he seems like he's getting in the clear a little bit more, you got a chance to make a big play. But those short yardage plays, like, you trust him. Like you're fed through 4 games, and the way that he's played, Khalil Mullins looks like, all right, they got a legit 3-back road, a legit 1, 2, and 3 of guys you could put in the game and think they can help you.
And you can honestly say it's the first time that they've had that depth as a third running back, a guy they could trust, right? In a few years, a couple seasons. I mean, last year it was really just the 2 guys and then Corum got hurt. You really just what this game did for Mullins is that it gave him that confidence, right? This is a confidence booster game for this whole team. But I think for a guy, like, if you look at individually, like a guy like Khalil Mullins coming in there, breaking a few tackles and having a roughly 20-yard touchdown run. I mean, that's probably his longest run of his career. I don't know. But I mean, that was a heck of a play, and it's something that's gonna pay dividends as the season unfolds.
Right. So we've been talking about, I know we got to wrap this up. We've been talking about what are we looking to see, right? What are we looking to see? This was not a game where you're really going to get a lot of eval of the coverage, right? There were some plays that were hit. This is such a challenge because they sneak passes on you, this offense, right? You're playing them run, you're playing them option, you're playing them run, you're playing them option. They slip a guy out there. And so it's about discipline. It's about keeping guys in front of you. Did some guys kind of leak in this game? Sure, they did, but I think it has a lot to do with style of play. I'm anxious to see this team against a real passing team to kind of get a full eval of where the secondary is. So there's that. And then offensively, I want to see more. Look, they are putting the foundation of what Donovan in the passing game is going to look like. We see different elements of it every single week, right? The ball may not always go to him, but if you're paying attention, you're kind of seeing it, right? So the RPO to Donovan today, that was when they split him out a few times. They run the Texas route. That's where he gets a diagonal out and then cuts back in on a slant. He dropped it, but that's not something that we've seen them do this year. So you're seeing them put more pieces to that puzzle into play. And I think they're scratching. I think that's going to be a big deal before all is said and done, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep developing that, getting Donovan involved. He's just such a weapon. I almost feel like we're just haven't seen the full Donovan Edwards that we know this season. I think I'm not alone on that sentiment. And these next 4 games, you're going to consistently see this Michigan team develop, see this offense develop. And Minnesota, primetime game next week. Gophers always love to run the football. They played Nebraska, a tough one in the opener. So it's this game. It's like, again, you're playing for a trophy, playing for the Brown Jug. Just go up there, handle your business. I just want to see this Michigan team sort of just keep it going, keep their eyes forward with their heads upon the prize, right? They know bigger things are ahead of them, but you got it week by week, right? So brick by brick, see how this team does it.
That's a great point, Josh. So let's see this again. Like, you make it a 3-quarter game. I mean, that's the best thing for this team right now is to get off the field. Like, get out of there quick, right? Keep the snaps down, keep the reps down for your starters. Make quick work. Choke the life out of an opponent in the first game. Choke the life out of Nebraska out the gate. Do that again. And Minnesota is the type of team that you can do that to. Minnesota lost to Northwestern, Josh. I mean, PJ Fleck, his audition for Michigan State, it probably went down right there. You losing to Northwestern when they don't have a coach? Come on, man. How does that happen? Michigan hopefully can make short work of this team, make it a 3-quarter game, rest your starters for the 4th quarter, and keep that going. Keep the efficient play going, and keep revving up for that clash with Penn State coming up in about a month from now? That's what.
Yeah, we got November 11th. I mean, we got. I was just looking at the schedule. Minnesota at home against Indiana, go up to Michigan State, and then Purdue, which was likely another night game. So you're looking at, again, 4 winnable games. We expect Michigan to be undefeated. Penn State to probably have at least no more than 1 loss. I know they play Ohio State, I believe, before they play Michigan. So it's all setting up, right? It's just work on all the things, slowly unveil, work on some little things in the offense, get this engine fine-tuned, right? As they get ready for Penn State. I expect that. And then Michigan might be number 1 in the country by the time we get there. We don't know, right? I'm not predicting that, but Georgia, they keep flirting with fire. They keep playing with it, right? You can't get down 10 every time in the SEC and expect to win. But that's another topic in itself. But this Michigan team has all the pieces.
One more thing. You guys know I love Josh Newkirk like a brother, right? Your brother tells you when he's going to Lambeau Field. That's all I'm saying. Your brother's like, hey, bro, I'm going to Lambeau Field. You want to come? But my brother didn't call me to tell me he was going to Lambeau Field.
Oh,
he just got on the phone. It was like, hey, look at me. I'm at Lambeau. I'm like, man, I'm happy for you, but damn, can you call him, brother, and let him know you're going to Lambeau?
Fine. You want to go next time? You want to go?
Was that your first time?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
All right.
I went last time when I went down to the Illinois game. Michigan played Illinois. Detroit was playing Monday Night Football, so I made a trip of it.
Yeah. Hey, T. Foss, he is dirty, man. He is dirty. He did me dirty. He went to Lambeau, but we got the dub.
Hey, man, I was front row. St. Brown did I thought I was going to get a Lambeau leap, and St. Brown did it literally like 20 feet from me.
All right, folks, that is going to do it for us coming up during the week. Obviously, we got Monday morning quarterback with Devin. On Monday, we got Tuesday breakdown with Al and Vance. We got the Wednesday film studies. We're going to do dropping dimes with Devin and Daniel. Recruiting Insider is back. It's all coming throughout the week over on the MichiganInsider.com. So I appreciate you guys, and we'll see you during the week. Thanks for watching another edition of the Michigan Football Post Game Wrap here on Sports Talk 1050 and, of course, the MichiganInsider.com.